And welcome to the first class smoking room, Titanic Poker. We're going to try this before we try the champagne because this particular cognac, Martel Cordon Bleu, came out in 1912. And it's postulated that some of the first class passengers actually brought this on the Titanic. So we're going to drink it right now. This is one of the best cognacs in the world for just under $200.
Salute.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's 100 years later.
Right?
It's a little smoother than the last one.
Well, different balance.
Wow, that's a big difference. Big difference.
Between.
We had compared this to the extremely egregiously awful Paul Masson brandy, which is $5 a bottle.
Aged 3
Aged
years.
for 20 minutes.
That's like leftover hair products?
Is it aged for, does it say 3 years?
No, aged in the truck on the way to the store. That's all that is.
That is horrible. But
Aged
this,
in pure steel.
but the Cordon Bleu, man, that's delicious. That is.
Well different.
You know, people who don't drink cognac, they think about it. They think about it like it tastes like Grand Marnier. Funny thing is, Grand Marnier was served on the Titanic. But we're not going to serve it here. It's too damn sweet. But cognac doesn't taste anything like that.
Not at all. But cognac is a province, right? So it's like, if, you know, if you have brandy, it's from somewhere else. But cognac is Cognac, France. And that's for Hein and Martel, which are the great houses.
By the way, when the boats were manned on the Titanic, there was actually a recording from Officer Lightoller, Second Officer Lightoller. When all that first happened, nobody could hear each other. So everything was done by hand signals because all the boilers went off at the same time as soon as the engine stopped. And then he even said, Lightoller said, I unloaded half of these boats and I still didn't think the ship was going to go down until the water started washing over the deck.
Wow.
Even the second officer. So nobody really thought. So when Guggenheim said, let it be known that, you know,
I did everything I could. It was great service. I did tell my wife I did everything I could.
Yes. As he puts his mistress, 19-year-old mistress in the boat. He was entitled to a boat in first class. He could the first 3 or 4 boats, anybody could have gotten them. But he says no.
Goes back to his cabin.
His Egyptian or Armenian valet, Victor Gilio, wasn't allowed to get in the boat. They stopped him and said, no, you can get in, but he can't get in. And so he said, you know what, I'm going to stay with this kid. And then they went to the smoking room, which, you know,
we're in.
We're in the first class
returned
smoking room.
back to and put on their cabin and put on their good clothes.
They put on their tuxedos.
And then went to the smoking lounge.
And then got smashed. And Jay Bruce Ismay actually helped fill boats and forced his way onto one of the last collapsible boats. There's two collapsible boats that went down, and he pushed his way into one of them.
Wasn't one of the stories is he put a shawl on and he tried to pretend he was a woman?
Not Ismay, but there was a guy named Edward Ryan.
Right.
I think his name is Edward Ryan.
Oh, those Ryan.
And one of the officers later testified, yeah, I kind of saw him, but I had a revolver out and I really didn't want to shoot him. I just let him go, and I didn't think any of the other passengers would notice. But people got shot, man.
So I might not be here today. I had my forefather not dressed as a woman.
He later married and had a family. So, you know, hey, man, it all worked out.
That's it.
So, this was drunk on the Titanic. This is the Remy Martin XO. It was served in first class. The drunk chef, Charles Joplin, which you look a lot like him. Look up there. You look a lot like the drunk chef. He was one of the head chefs. He was in charge. He had keys to the first class, all the alcohol.
Good stuff.
And as soon as the ship started to, the bow started to go below water, he goes below his deck and unlocks there are keys to the, and disappears into his stateroom for a half hour, gets completely smashed, and then goes back up on deck and he helps unload loads the lifeboats, throws some deck chairs off. Like he's a hero. There's good things that you hear about him. Then he goes back down to the kitchen, takes some more of it, goes to his stateroom, drinks only the best stuff, comes back up with the bottle at this point, and apparently it was a bottle of Remy Martin. So. And then he was the only person who was in the water the longest of anyone. He was in the water for 3 hours and he survived. No one really knows how the hell he did.
When the last part of the ship was going down, he was on it. And he says that he just kind of stepped off into the water.
That's right.
And his hair didn't get wet. He just started swimming and swimming. And he was expecting to get sucked down by the vortex or whatever of the ship going down, but that didn't happen. And he made his way to
I'll drink that last little spittle
the
there.
boat, and at first they wouldn't let him on. They kept shoving him away, but then he met up with one of the sous chefs or something, and they recognized him, so they helped him on board. I guess he was just smashed.
But he was in the water for 3 hours first, right?
3 hours.
That's what he says, but there's no way.
There's no way.
They picked
just
him
no
up.
way.
He was one of
He
the
did-
last people picked out of the water.
But he claims that he had just so much alcohol in him that
He was on a piece
that
of wood. He
warmed
was on
him up.
something. There was no way
And
he
he
was.
is.
But that's not how it works.
He is in
No,
the.
alcohol cools you down, I think.
He's in the Night to Remember. They actually have him in a couple scenes in the Night to Remember. They show him being drunk and throwing, and he's stumbling around like this. And in the movie Titanic, they just show, it was Kate Winslet, and she looks up at this guy, and it's him. It's the drunk chef. He's in his chef, and he just kind of looks really it. Okay, let's have some. This is also considered one of the best cognacs in the world, just under the $200 range. Sorry, sir.
Steinbach was taken same moment.
So this has, it's interesting on the
Rhino.
glass, if you the legs of it. The other one had sort of.
Thank you.
This has a much
Stick
stronger
of legs.
nose.
Yeah,
Much
it's,
stronger
look,
nose.
it's
Does it
holding
really?
the whole glass.
Yeah.
Whoa, you're right.
Wow, you
Much
got-
stronger nose.
Oh,
Over
so
there.
Whoa,
I lived a long time in the
the
water.
nose, yeah.
So some of these, in
Oh,
this
they're
blend,
old.
this is a blend of cognacs that are anywhere from 10 years to 37 years old.
Yeah.
Consequently, this is a replica of the crystal that they served on the first class of Titanic. The only thing that's missing here is the White Star Line label,
Yep.
and they just sold a bottle with the White Star Line label for almost $800, $799 on eBay.
Why don't we
So
have
it's
one of those?
somewhere between this and this.
Right.
Is that what we're
It's
saying?
right here. It's right here. It's in the middle. It's in the middle, right there.
Cannot be that.
Wait, let me get that shot. Hold on. That's
Don't get too excited.
That's a photo.
Keep calm.
Keep calm and carry on. It says
Hold on.
it's right there.
They're in
It's
the
in the
middle.
middle. Right
Nice
Like,
shot.
this is exciting! Oh, wrong button.
So is,
This was probably served in second class, and they probably had to pay for it. In first class, I don't think they had to pay for it. But I'm gonna, okay.
You mean it was all included?
Do we?
So there's
First, I
actually.
think we need a prayer.
We need a prayer. We got the priest here. The priest.
That's the first time I've heard that got up at
The
a...
blessings will be over here. Blessing of the cigars.
Yes, blessing of cigars.
I did an inquiry on what the cigars were smoked on the Titanic, and I was able to find that box cigars were served in first class. They were on the manifest. I actually looked on the manifest online. Box cigars were the most popular cigars in the world from 1850 to 1950. They were just a sweet plain Maduro. I contacted the curator of the National Cigar History Museum, his name is Tony Heeman, and he said most likely there were two types of cigars that were smoked on the Titanic that people brought up, and they were El Rey del Mundo and Punch. Take your choice, take your pick, whatever you want. Go first. Yeah, they actually took. Make a wish. Everybody make a wish. And we're about to have some the same champagne that was drunk on the Titanic. To the good life.
To the good life.
To the good life.
All right.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Wow.
I am not a big fan of champagne, but
Wow,
that's
that's-
delicious.
That is
Wow.
delicious.
Shrimp canapé.
Shrimp canapé.
Served on first class
Here,
the
hand me-
night
hand
of
me
the
that camera.
disaster.
Start.
Shrimp
I don't want
canapé.
that peak.
I got a question, real quick.
And women have a greater chance than women.
This is
than
an
men to
article
survive.
from the Los Angeles Times, July 31st, this summer. All right? They're less likely to survive a shipwreck than the captain and the crew, a Swedish study finds.
Wow.
All of this, so this article, all it basically says is, if you get in a shipwreck or your ship runs into problems, find a member of the crew, you have a better chance of survival. In examining 18 different shipping disasters dating from the 1850s, economists found little evidence that men were inclined to surrender their survival advantage.
This was.
Overall, their survival rate was
Those are the last name of Ryan.
61% for crew members, 44% for captains, 44% for captains, 37% for male passengers, 27% for women, and 15% for children.
Wait,
So much for the captain going down with
Why
the
didn't
ship.
you
Yeah.
go?
Your
Ryan,
pants are
how'd
wet.
you get all my chips? I'm short a stack.
Damn it! Yep. But
You
that's
don't
what the
stack 'em.
napkin is. Oh, keep calm, carry on.
Keep going.
No,
Carry on.
Fry's good.
Please.
On April 17, 1912, Berry Brothers Company received a letter from the White Star Line detailing the loss of 69 cases of their whiskeys, which were aboard the liner. The ship foundered 2 days earlier. The letter was dated April 16, 1912. The only scotch in the world that matches the tasting profile for the scotch that went down with the Titanic. It's Glenfiddich Solera Reserve 15 year. It's the only one. It tastes exactly the same.
Is that that's a scotch?
Don't they call it Glenfiddich? Or is it
Glenfiddich. Glenfiddich.
My family's fortune couldn't save me on the boat that evening.
You weren't rich enough.
I
Despite.
was so rich.
Are you John Jacob Astor?
Not a bit Guggenheim, but I like speaking with
Guggenheim.
some pompous accent.
Scotch that was
I thought I was
consumed on the
for sure.
Titanic. Who would like some?
I'll try some.
8 to you to stay.
Keep calm.
Carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on.
Carry on.